Welcome to the Greater Irvine Chamber Business Insights podcast series, where we address challenges and ideas for early stage and entrepreneurial business leaders. Your host today is Dave Cofaro, Interim President and CEO of the Greater Irvine Chamber.
Well, hello, folks, and welcome to the Greater Irvine Chamber Business Insight Podcasts. I'm Dave Cofaro, and I'm excited to have you here today. If you're a small business, a mid-sized business owner, you're looking to expand your reach and drive your sales, grow your company, build a more loyal customer base, then you are in the right place. And social media is one of the most important, cost-effective ways to reach your potential customers and to build brand awareness. But knowing where and how to start and how to stand out can really feel overwhelming. So that's why we're here. We're here to simplify the social media landscape and turn it into a strategic tool for your growth. In today's episode, we're going to explore kind of what works, what doesn't, how to avoid some of the common pitfalls that can slow your progress. So grab a notepad, a notebook, or wherever you take notes and get ready to soak it all in, because we're here to help you transform your business one post, one story, one strategy at a time. My guest today is Vivian Nguyen. She's a consultant in digital marketing with the Small Business Development Center of Orange County and the Inland Empire. Vivian, thanks so much for being here today.
Happy to be here.
All right, let's get right down to business. Why don't you start, if you just tell a little bit about your background and your role and your work in the social media arena.
So I've been doing digital marketing for over 10 years now. I started my career in the franchising space and eventually found my way over to tech. So B2C, B to SMBs, B2Bs, I'm familiar with it all. I now currently consult with the OCI SBDC, working with many businesses varying in sizes, training and providing these businesses with the skills and tools that they need to help them grow. Because typically, when you're starting out, it's a one-man team. So it's really helpful to be able to speak with someone who's been through it and then lay it out, looking at the landscape strategy, like how do I maximize my time, and helping these businesses kind of like think through how it is and what tools they have available to them to be able to grow. We're funded in part through the SBA and the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. So all of the consulting with us is free to these small businesses. And so looking forward to working with more of these types of businesses like you guys.
Well, I'm glad that you're here, Vivian, and you've dedicated 10 years of your life to this area. So why is social media such a powerful tool for small and mid-sized businesses, and particularly in today's digital age?
So social media gives businesses a way to connect directly with their customer in real time and at very minimal cost. It's a space where even smaller companies can make a big impact because it levels the playing field, right? Everyone has access to the same platform. Plus, people are already there sharing, commenting, and shopping. It's the perfect way to build awareness, get feedback, and turn followers into loyal customers.
So I think everybody who's part of our audience wants more loyal customers. They want to expand. They want to be able to show themselves well. Are there any unique advantages to using social media for businesses in the Irvine, Orange County area, given the diversity of our marketplace?
Definitely. So Irvine and Orange County are very super diverse. So social media lets businesses tap into different cultures, age group, and interests, right? So it's really important for these businesses to identify who it is their customer base is, what's their profile, and then think about where to find them so you can target your content on specific groups, make connections in a way that feels more personal. Also, since people in this area are pretty tech savvy, they're more likely to engage with your digital efforts, whether it's an ad, a story, or a post about your products.
So when I think about for my own business, my consulting business, separate from the chamber, I usually go to LinkedIn first, but I also know that there are a lot of platforms available. How can businesses decide which platform or platforms is best for their needs and best to connect with their audience, Vivian?
It really comes down to where your audience hangs out the most. If you're a visual brand, I think beauty, fashion, food. So Instagram, Pinterest might be the way to go. Facebook's great for building a community, especially with an older crowd. While LinkedIn is definitely the place to go when you're trying to reach professionals or business to businesses. TikTok's also huge for a younger audience, and YouTube is perfect for anything that's more video based. So focus on really where your ideal customers are spending their time. So you do have to put that time in for some sort of market research ahead of time to know and understand like where's the best effort going to be for your specific type of business.
So go to where your customers hang out. That makes a lot of sense. Are there any benefits to being on multiple platforms, or should business owners really think about, I'll pick one lane and I'm going to stick with it?
There of course are benefits to being on multiple platforms, but only if you can keep up with the ones that you end up choosing, right? It helps you reach different types of audiences. It also helps your brand be more visible. But if you spread to yourself too thin, it can backfire. It's better to be consistent and engaging than to have a page that is not interactive and people can see that, right? If your post is 3 months apart, people are not going to follow you.
That's something I think about a lot of times when I see people post. And like I said, LinkedIn is number one for me. Instagram's probably next. But when I see somebody who hasn't posted very often, I just think they're probably not really using this unless they're desperate for business, or they said, "Oh, I know, I'll set a New Year's resolution. I'm going to start posting a lot." But but it seems like you've got to sort of build into your marketing plan the time, the activity, the energy to get the content, to create the content, to put it out and do it consistently. Is that kind of how you look at it?
Correct. And at the SBDC, like we help our clients walk through all of these types of plans, right? Um, what tools can I use to make this more efficient? Can I use AI to help me generate content? What kind of images can I use? What content will resonate with more of like the folks that I'm focusing on? And then also like what kind of tools do I have to post on, right? And making sure that these clients are spending their time in the right amount so that they can consistently push out these kind of content and be able to, engage their customers with these content too. Because you could push all you want, but if no one's liking it or it's of no interest to your client, it's kind of useless and a waste of time.
So that sort of gets to the question for businesses, small businesses in particular, with limited resources, whether it's time or money. What's the best way to approach social media marketing without getting overwhelmed and overspending?
Easy. Keep it simple. Focus on one or two platforms where your audience is most active. Use free tools like Hootsuite to schedule posts. Take advantage of analytics that are built into each platform. See what's working. And a lot of things about marketing or digital marketing is a lot of trial and error, right? You make certain posts, you see how people react to it. Like sometimes a poll would work, sometimes a how to video works, right? You don't need to post every day, but you just need to be consistent. And, there's also collaboration. You could follow like influencers, loyal customers, help create content that, spreads the word. Sweepstakes or giveaways works as well.
So you're talking about content, and I'm curious, are there different kinds of content that tend to perform better on social media? And how can a business sort of ensure that their content stands out in a really crowded marketplace?
Again, I think I mentioned it earlier, but you kind of have to look at what is your customer like profile, what kind of content would resonate with these specific customer profiles, right? So you want to create content that's authentic, that's relatable, and usually those will do the best. People love behind the scene peeks, customer reviews, or fun interactive posts like polls and quizzes. Stories and short videos work very well for channels like TikToks and Instagram. and they're great for engagement. To stand out, I would focus on high quality visuals, tell a story that resonates, and keep your branding consistent. Make your content feel personal but not too salesy. Um, for example, I had a yoga business that I worked with. Some of the content that she had posted was all random food encounters on her page. And so we went through that. We kind of talked through like what kind of like mindset would her customers want to see, right? Maybe it's yoga poses, maybe it's more meditation, maybe it's more motivational quotes, daily nutrition and breakdown of how to help like these people who are, you know, doing yoga for their health. So deciding what content works for your audience is really important.
You hit on something that really resonates with me, Vivian, and that is make sure the content fits what the message is, the story that you want to tell. And so in the yoga studio example where they're showing food and it's a yoga studio, that seems like a big disconnect. And so the way I interpret what you're saying is understand what's going to cause the right reaction with your audience, what's going to engage them versus here's something I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So I know a lot of businesses kind of struggle with growing their audience. They want to expand their market. What are some effective strategies for increasing a business's social media followership?
Um, so engagement is key. Like I mentioned before, like you don't want to just post and then get like no responses. So sometimes platform like Instagram and Twitter, you could use hashtags. Facebook has it as well. But you want to ask questions, show up in people's feed regularly. Um, Also giveaways and content and contests works really well too to, grow that base. Especially when you have a solid following already that are people who, are interested in what you have. And then on top of that, you could also do advertising through these platforms to really highlight your target audience and pay for these, especially when you're trying to grow in the beginning. You could boost your posts to reach more audiences because it's things that you can't do organically in the beginning, you do have to pay for. And partnering with influencers that are aligned with your product can also give you a boost. And of course, make sure you're using the right hashtags, posting at optimal times when your audience is most active is also very important. So making sure that when you are creating your like for example an Instagram account or a Facebook account for your business, make sure that it is an account for your business and not a personal account because you get so many more metrics with a business account than a personal account.
You mentioned a couple of things I want to circle back on. I heard you talk about partnering with an influencer. So, how would I go about finding an influencer to partner with to grow my business?
Um, so in order to find the influencers, you should be following folks that are already kind of like in your space and talking about things that your businesses stand for. And a lot of the time, you want to kind of gauge what kind of influencers have the followers, right? Because you don't want to reach out to someone who's too big or too small. If they're too big, they probably want a lot for you to work with them. If they're too small, they probably don't have enough reach. And, your depending on what your relationship and your partnership with them is, it'll be not worth the time, but, you kind of want to gauge what is that fine line between what's worth your time and money and investment and what they can deliver as well. And of course, you want to track everything. So that's a whole other discussion where you want to have an influence strategy that we've also helped some of our clients with through the SBDC as well. Identifying influencers, making sure that there's a solid plan for what your plans to offer these influencers when you are asking to partner with them, and set a goal for what you would like to see in return from these influencers.
It sounds like it's shopping for any other service provider, is understanding kind of how they work, how beneficial they can be to you, and then weighing that return on investment kind of thing. Is that how you
Mhm.
see it? Yeah.
Yep, definitely. It's a lot of trial and error. You might not get the right one the first time, but you keep working through it.
Early on, I used a Bookstagrammer to promote a book. And the first one I used was great. And the second one that I used was absolutely not worth the money. So what I learned is um, just looking at the number of followers that they had wasn't necessarily for my business the right due diligence metric. It was, are they the right followers? Because a lot of followers, but that weren't really people that would be interested in business books, didn't really suit what I was accomplishing or what I wanted to accomplish. So I think you're making a really important point. Another thing you mentioned, Vivian, I want to just go back to is you talked about the best times to do posts. How do you know the best time to do a post for your business?
Testing. And like I mentioned, it's very important for you to have a business profile because it shows you as you're posting throughout the day, right? What posts and at what time would receive the highest impressions or click throughs. So unfortunately, like I would like to say, like, hey, like post in the morning, this is the best for your business. You're just gonna have to post and see.
Trial and error. Well, that
Yeah.
that sort of leads to measurements, and I know you talked about this earlier, but how can a business evaluate the benefits of investing, spending money on social media advertising?
So as I mentioned, like start by setting very clear goals. Do you want followers? Do you want clicks to your website? Or do you want actual sales? Social media platforms give you detailed insights on how your ads perform. So you look at metrics like engagement, click through rates, and conversions to see if it's worth the investment. I would start small. If you're paying for it, test different ads and see what works before committing to a bigger budget.
Makes a lot of sense. You talked a little bit about the idea of storytelling, not just using stories, but storytelling. So, would you talk a little bit about kind of the role of storytelling in social media marketing and how can a small business tell their story effectively to engage with their audience?
So, storytelling is what makes your brand human. It's about sharing why you started, what your mission is, or even the challenges you face. People connect with real stories and not just products. So, to engage your audience, keep it authentic, show them the behind the scenes, introduce them to your team, share customer success stories, right? A great story helps build an emotional connection with your followers. And really, as a business, what you're trying to do is solve people's problems.
Yeah, and so humanizing your brand, I think, is a really great way to say it. It's that making it real, bringing it to life for people. I'm going to pause for a second, Bisher. I don't know why, but my printer is doing something. So let's just take that as a pause. It has got a mind of its own and it decided to print something right now.
It's
So I
always the
apologize.
printers.
I swear, I don't, my house must be haunted. Give
Okay,
it a
I'll leave the
minute to
test part
stop.
out.
Good grief. What did it print? Okay, let's pick up. So I'm going to pick up with the question, how important is it for businesses to engage directly with their followers? Okay. All right, let's go from here. So we're talking about humanizing the brand, and that sort of leads to this idea of how important is it for businesses to engage directly with their followers? And what are some of the tips for building meaningful relationships with your followers on social media, Vivian?
It's super important, right? Engaging directly with your followers builds trust and loyalty. So, responding to their comments and messages and make them feel like they're part of a community. Ask questions, run polls, go to live chats with your audience. The more personal and interactive you are, the stronger those relationships become. And this works for brands that are small, that are starting out, to like huge brands, right? Making sure that you are engaging your customer is very important.
I like the idea of polls because it's a really quick thing. You can ask a couple of questions, get responses, get engagement. It doesn't take a lot of time for the followers, and it's just a way to get them connected with you. I think that's a really helpful approach. So we've talked about the things that can work really well. What are some of the common mistakes that businesses make when they're trying to engage with their audience on social media?
One mistake is probably being too pushy or salesy. You want to build a relationship that not just sells constantly. Another mistake is ignoring negative feedback, and so many brands are falls into this, right? You need to be able to respond to it like professionally and can actually improve your image. I see this on Yelp. I see this on like a Capterra, you know, from B2B to B2C. A lot of people are not doing this correctly when they're ignoring what their customers are saying. Posting too much or not enough can also hurt your engagement. And lastly, don't just copy and paste content from one platform to another. Um, know what platform you're posting on and adjust your content, even if it's like similar content, adjust it to meet that specific audience.
Interesting you mentioned that about Yelp. I saw a local restaurant where I live, and somebody had put a comment about a bad experience they had, and the owner started debating them on Yelp. And I thought, good grief, let it go. Tell them they can come in for a free meal or something, but don't debate it. And it went back and forth. And I thought, that's a fast way to alienate your audience. Just doesn't seem like a very effective strategy. So good advice. When it comes to analytics, what are some of the metrics that businesses should be paying attention to in order to measure the success that they're having through social media?
So engagement rates, likes, shares, and comments are some of the big ones. Since they show how much people are interacting with your content. Also, look at reach. How many people saw your posts, and click through rates if you're driving traffic somewhere, right? If you're driving it to a website, or traffic that you're pushing from social media, getting any conversions. So, conversion rates are very crucial as well, and looking at actual sales and signups. Um, you need the whole goal here is to make sure that you're tracking what's important to your specific goal.
So when you set out, you have to be clear about what you want to accomplish, and it sounds like that's how you determine what you measure.
Yep.
Makes sense. So you've worked with a lot of different businesses, and I would encourage, as you're talking about metrics, people should reach out to you at the Small Business Development Center if they're not sure how to get into those metrics that you just described, because I know you can help with that, Vivian. But I'd love it if you'd share some examples of businesses that you've worked with that have successfully used social media to grow their customer base, and what can our audience learn from that strategy?
Yeah, of course. I had the privilege of working with many different types of businesses, and one of my more interesting one was a notary business. She started from ground zero. She had just opened up her business, didn't have a website, didn't have a social media account. So we worked on the website, making sure that there's content, SEO, optimized it, and then created the social media strategy. We worked on the platforms that they needed to focus on, identifying the types of content that would resonate with the audience. But I think the most important part that I think what helped her succeed ultimately was her consistency. She posted on her pages regularly and kept the content fun and relatable. So after we did our strategy, she actually executed on her plan. Um, so they engaged with their followers, and customer testimonials was a big part of it. You know, their approach showed that being authentic and focused and building a community can really lead to real growth. And in working with this business, like she started from zero and had an ROI of 30K within months.
And that's a notary business.
That is a notary business.
Wow, what a great story. Love it. So we're coming close to the end of our time together, but the last question I have for you, Vivian, is for businesses that are just starting out on their social media journey, what are the key takeaways or pieces of advice that you'd offer to just make sure they start strong and they grow effectively?
I would say start with clear goals, understand who your audience is, and of course, leverage the SBDC for help. Pick one or two platforms to start with, focus on being consistent with your posts, keep your content authentic, engage with your followers, experiment to see what works best. It's a long game, so don't expect instant results. Be patient and keep refining your strategy based on what you're seeing, what's happening in your analytics. So if anyone wants to use our services at no cost, they can call 800-616-7232 and mention they heard about the SBDC resources from this podcast. And thanks, Dave, for providing me with this opportunity to share best practices of social media and how to grow a business.
Well, I appreciate you being here, and we will put the link to your site on this podcast when we promote it. And you've got the phone number, folks. So, Vivian, thank you so much. This is a critical part of any business. It's something that we can always keep learning about. And so I appreciate you sharing with our audience today and helping us find new ways to grow our business through social media. Thanks very much, Vivian.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, folks, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in today.
Thank you for joining us for the Greater Irvine Chamber Business Insights podcast. To stay informed about upcoming podcasts and other important business news, please subscribe to our channel or check the Greater Irvine Chamber website.